Here we go.
Are you ready? Sure.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Wait. No, I'm ready.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Read This Book podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Duncan.
And I'm your other host, Matthew Meadows.
And we're here to talk about books and life.
Yeah, we'll probably get there. Now, before we start, Stephen, I do want to address the elephant in the room. It's over here. You might be looking, if you're watching the video version, be like, who is that guy on Stephen's opposite?
Yeah.
It's still me. Don't worry. I just cut my hair off. I know that you were scared that we replaced one of your favorite co-hosts of the show.
We recast Matthew.
Yeah. It's still me. I just cut off apparently 13 inches of hair.
That's insane.
Yes, it is. And I don't know if I told you this. I did not plan to cut it off when I went into the barber. I had thought that maybe I would trim it, or I was going to trim it.
Yeah.
But then I got in there and was like, you know what? Let's just cut it off. I'm kind of done with it. I'm kind of over it.
Yeah.
And so here we are. I have...
It looks good.
Thank you. I have a significantly shorter hair.
Yeah.
And it feels good.
Yeah, your neck's a lot straighter now, too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so, too.
Oh, my goodness. That's wild. You've been growing it out for
4 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Since 2020.
Yeah.
It felt weird too the first couple days where I would wake up. And normally when I would wake up, my hair would be all over the place.
Sure.
If I didn't put it up, because sometimes I put it up to sleep in. And the first day I woke up, I was like, oh my, where'd it go?
Yeah.
And every time I walk past a mirror, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Who's that guy?
You still haven't visually
No,
adjusted
yeah.
to it yet.
Even pictures, I'm like, I don't feel like that's me.
Yeah.
Which is weird to have something so attached to your identity, where you're
attached to your head too.
Yeah. Well, they're still technically attached. It's just shorter.
Sure.
Sorry. I just
Yeah. Gotta be real.
ever the technical man.
That's your nickname, actually.
Weird sentence.
Hey, technical man.
But yeah, so I just wanted to get that out of the way. Have no fear. It's still me, Matthew, right here.
Could you? So 2 things. One, if we create merch, I want a T-shirt with the silhouette of you with cut hair, but then the subtitle "Technical Man."
Yeah. And everybody will know what that means.
Yeah, for sure. At least I will. 2, I made the comment of, oh no, we recast Matthew. How funny would it be if we played each other in an episode of the Bro Read This Book podcast?
That would be funny.
We sit on opposite sides.
and we Yeah. You're gonna have to get taller.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It's gonna take a while.
I'm gonna have to get shorter.
Yep.
I saw a saw. Do you have a saw here? We can just
a saw?
Yeah, we can just.
That seems like a big commitment for one episode.
Method actor.
It may not work, so we'd have to switch back.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
How's it going, man?
It's going good. It's going very good.
Good, man.
Yeah. Should we jump into a little topic?
Sure.
Which is really more of an update, but
yeah. So for those who don't know, I've been on Bookstagram for over a year now. Year and some change. And it's been really fun. And I've been trying to get Steven on there. And
I finally did it.
We did it.
Steven's Bookshelf.
Yeah.
That's the other way.
It's at Steven's Bookshelf.
That's it.
I knew what you meant. So, how's that been for you?
So in the first 30 minutes of being back on Instagram, I was very overwhelmed. And I was like, I see why I left this place.
Yeah.
Because it was just so much information.
I have to
funneling
make a
at me.
Beacons link.
That did happen in the first 30
Yeah.
minutes for sure. Yeah, so it actually was super overwhelming to jump back in, which I thought was kind of just interesting.
It is a lot.
It's a lot. And like choosing pictures of yourself and stuff like that again when you haven't thought about that in forever. 'Cause when you're not in the habit of posting pictures of things in your life or yourself, it's a weird thing to do.
Yeah.
And you don't really realize that unless you've jumped off of that hamster wheel at any point in time.
Yeah.
But yeah, turns out it's not entirely natural, but but it has been very fun. And what I've noticed is Bookstagram is probably the best like sliver of Instagram in terms
think
of
so?
like places to be on the internet.
Yeah.
So for background, I got on Instagram when it was still like early stages and cool,
like 2013,
and like not owned by Facebook yet.
Yeah.
So like early stage fun Instagram before like everyone was promoting something and everyone had a brand and there were influencers. Influencers were not a thing yet.
Yeah.
It was a good time. And then I was doing photography at the time, so I started using Instagram for that.
Like business.
Yeah. And trying to like get into the photography community in, where we live and whatnot. It's not a great photography community, or at least it wasn't 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And so I had sort of a bad taste in my mouth from that experience.
Sure.
But Bookstagram is night and day different from that, where like what I've noticed is people are not concerned with like how many people they're following or not following or anything like that. It's basically just like they see your thing, they like it,
Yeah.
they follow you, you follow them back, you probably message them a few times. Like I've been reached out to more than at any other point in being in social media. So it's just been cool. I've made a couple friends and kind of just always have people to talk to about books and whatnot.
Yeah, that's I'm sorry to interrupt you. That's actually I think the best thing about Bookstagram is that people are always on there.
Yeah.
And people are always posting, always making stories. TikTok's the same way, really.
Yeah.
With the book talk thing. But Instagram is a really, really cool community.
Yeah.
And I've made some like actual friends there, I'd say. Like somebody reached out the other day, was like, "Hey, can you read the first chapter of my book that I'm writing?" I was like,
I'm waiting for that to happen.
Yeah, I was like, absolutely.
I'll be all over it.
And so like, it's just a cool thing. So I'm glad that you're there too.
It's been a lot of fun so far.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm there. I haven't regretted it. The nice thing is like I've found it way easier to like enjoy it in moderation.
Sure.
Because I've noticed book people only post so much. Right? Like you don't have these super long strings of stories that people accumulate through the day because they're reading.
Yeah.
So like, the thing that we're all interested in is a very time consuming thing.
Yes.
And so when you're on there to discuss like books and
I don't find myself on there very often to just like scroll.
Yeah. Exactly. So I've enjoyed that too. And just like what people post has more substance to it typically.
Value too, because it's like I think it's like if you see a book you've never read before, you're like, oh, I have learned something.
Yeah.
Or like I have learned about a new book that I want to read.
Yeah. And it's so easy to like jump into the comments and be like, hey, so what did you like about this?
Yeah.
Or I haven't started this yet because of XYZ. What do you think about that? And people will get back to you and give you like, oh, well, maybe you wouldn't like that, but check this out. And like, I don't know. It's super cool.
Yeah. And I've had a lot of people comment on my stuff and like ask questions about the books. I love that.
Yeah.
Like I love talking about books, man. So like I'm glad that you're there. I'm glad that that's been your experience so far.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. I think it's a cool community. And like I said, having been there for a little while now, you really do make some connections, which is awesome.
Yeah. It's been fun to like drive people towards the show a little bit more as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool how supportive people are. They're like, "Oh, you have a podcast. That's so cool."
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not like, again, the only thing I can compare it to is like photography
Mm-hmm.
Instagram,
Yeah.
and everyone has an angle. Everyone's trying to get something from you, or like get you to do something.
Yeah.
Like, whereas with Bookstagram, it's not like that at all.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a really cool community.
Yeah.
Just a fun place to be.
So, if you're watching this and you didn't get there from one of our Instagrams, you can follow me on Instagram now.
And also me.
And also Matthew, although everyone follows Matthew already. So,
What can I say? What can I say?
But yeah, I am no longer the social media hermit of the Bro Read This Book podcast.
And honestly, I'm happy about it. Yeah. I think it's fun to have you there.
Yeah.
But should we hop into our check-in?
The Bro Weekly check-in?
Yeah,
I think we need to. Yeah. I think we need to.
I'll start if that's okay.
Please do.
I finished the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin, which I believe I talked about in the last episode.
Briefly,
that I was going to finish it.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. It was so good.
Good.
It's the most unique book that I've ever read.
Okay.
And I will talk more about it when I finish the series.
Okay, cool.
I think that I mentioned this in our year, like beginning reading goals episode. I wanted to read less series.
Oh.
I lied. I have pretty much exclusively read book 1 of series this year so far. I read Jade City, the 5th season, or the Broken Earth trilogy, which is the 5th season.
Yep.
And currently, I am reading the 2nd book of a series, though, Well of Ascension, which is in the Mistborn series.
Yeah.
Now, if you remember, Steven, you might not remember this. I remember this.
Okay.
I did not like the first Mistborn book that much.
I do remember that.
And I felt like such a poser in the fantasy world because Brandon Sanderson is like the guy.
Yeah.
And so I didn't like it, and it took me forever to pick up the 2nd book.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I was like, you know what? Let's give it a go. Let's try it. It is so good.
Is it?
It's so much better than the first book. The pacing is like the best pacing that I've read. It's a really interesting story. It builds really well off of the first book without having it repeat a lot.
Sure.
And the characters in the first book I did not really care about that much.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I should go back and reread it, to be honest with you, because sorry. Yeah, pause. That was weird.
Resume.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, never mind.
What is going on?
You're burping.
Oh. What if I just anyway.
That'd be wild.
That would be insane.
I'd have to do the rest of the show by myself.
I would hope that you would continue.
Yeah.
And then you would worry
to
about
55 minutes, and then we would deal with it.
The characters in the first book, I did not like. Well, it's not that I didn't like them. I just didn't care about them very much.
Sure.
So I think I need to reread the book because at the time, too, I had never read a book that was 800 pages long.
Okay.
And so I think it just was hard for me to do.
Yeah. That's a long one.
But now that I'm more accustomed to it, like reading longer books, I think that it's interesting too. My reading ability, I think, has increased exponentially since the first book.
Mm-hmm.
And I've also been tabbing this book, so I've been making like marks.
Ah, very cool.
I have a tab for quotes,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a tab for what, and that's it.
Yeah.
And so that's been really good to keep me engaged with a really, really long book. It's 777 pages. And yeah, I'm really enjoying it. But with it being so long, it's really the only book I've touched in the last like week or so.
Yeah.
So, and honestly, so I never do this, but I think that I might go into book 3 after I finish this book.
Well, that's cool.
So the final book of the series, which I never do.
Yeah. You have a lot of time between your series entries.
I do. And I was talking to somebody on Instagram the other day, Andy Peliquin. He's a indie author. But he's like, I go to the book right after just to finish the series. And for me, the reason I think I put a lot of time between it is because I don't want to get burnt out.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to try it. Like, I want to try because I don't know. Because the last time, what really got me started on that was reading The Expanse, where I would have to take like breaks between books because there's 9 of them.
Yeah.
But with a 3-book series, it maybe makes more sense to just keep going.
Yeah.
So this will be a good experiment for me of finishing the second book, going right into the third book. Mostly because I really want to know what happens. I'm about 100 pages from the end of Well of Ascension.
Nice.
And then I'll start. I think it's called the Hero of Ages, perchance. Which would make sense if that's what it's called. I think that's what it's called. But I think I'll go right into that, and then get back to the Broken Earth trilogy.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Love it.
Me too.
I will pull it up.
I love it as well.
All right. Since I can't use my phone. All right, so I finished The Beauty of Living Twice, the Sharon Stone autobiography. Very fun. Good times. Finished book 2 of the Thrawn trilogy, Dark Force Rising. It was excellent. Really enjoyed it. Really excited to finish out that series. Counting the Cost, the memoir of Jill Duggar.
Oh, yeah.
From 18 Kids and Counting.
Yeah.
Really good memoir. Really enjoyed it a lot. Wrote a Medium article about it if you want to hear more thoughts on that. But, yeah, really good book. The Locked Door, another Frida McFadden.
Okay.
I had talked about Never Lie before.
I'm reading
Same
a book
author.
of hers right now, actually. But
Which one?
One by One. It's like it was an ARC copy from Neck Alley.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Cool.
I think that's what it's called.
It was not as good as Never Lie,
Yeah.
but it was still fun. Yeah. I read The Great Gatsby. I read that in a day, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love that book. I actually really love that one.
One day I'll unpack my thoughts about that. I need to read it again.
We should do an episode on it.
Yeah.
It'd be fun.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like we'd be coming from two different angles.
Maybe.
Too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Velvet Was the Night, which is by the same author who did Mexican Gothic, but it's set in the 70s in Mexico City, and it's more of like a crime noir story.
That's cool.
Again, very atmospheric, very like sort of slow burn.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, really good.
Gosh,
The book
I'm gonna so many books.
the book I'm gonna talk about tonight. I finished book 2 of my Theodore Roosevelt biographies.
Funny, dude.
Theodore Rex.
That
I
is
have
so
one to go.
funny. You're almost done.
I'm almost done. And then Whale Fall, which I was thinking was going to be what I had talked about today, but I did not enjoy it enough to try to convince you to read it.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah. The concept was so good, and the main storyline was good, and really suspenseful and really wonderful. However, so quick synopsis, it's about a guy who gets swallowed by a sperm whale.
I feel like I've heard that before.
Not a sperm whale.
Oh.
Yeah. But he gets swallowed by this whale, and it's about his attempt to survive the experience. But it cuts back and forth between present and past to try to like give more context to the character. And I just do not care about this character.
Yeah.
Like, the more I learn about him, the less I want him to get out of the whale.
You're like, maybe you should just stay in there.
I'm like, will you be missed? Like, this isn't going to be that big of a deal. They're trying to do like this father-son story through the past section, and it just didn't work for me. It wasn't super well executed.
Yeah.
There wasn't any additional emotional resonance that came from it. It just... And it completely deflated the suspense of the main story. So, like, the author could have completely taken away all of the past stuff and the extra stuff and just had a short, like, quick-hitting
like novella almost.
Survival story. And it would have been great.
Yeah.
No notes. But they didn't do that.
Yeah.
Kind of screwed the whole thing up.
Well,
yeah.
It happens.
Yeah. So it ended up being a 2.5 star read for me, and I was really excited for it. Yeah. So that was kind of a bummer. Yeah. But
it sounds like you had a pretty busy couple weeks.
A little bit, but it's also been slowing down a little bit.
Yeah, I have slowed down significantly since I started reading this book. Man.
Well, in the last couple weeks, I've really slowed down.
Yeah.
And I DNF'd one too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What?
I just stopped reading the Yid.
Oh, yeah.
I liked it. I enjoyed it. It just wasn't grabbing me.
Sure, maybe
super
another
well.
time.
Yeah. So it would go in your category of
DNF for now.
Yeah.
Try it again later.
DNF for now.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Cool. Well, before we get into our topic or our books of the episode, I want to take a minute to talk about our sponsor, Tether. Tether is a Louisville-based software company. Really? You're just going to put that down?
Yep.
Tether is a Louisville-based software company, and we've been using Tether's system for a while now, and just wanted to say a couple things. One thing that it's done for us has made our social media a lot better, a lot easier to manage using their content planner. We've also begun sending out our newsletters using Tether to our patrons from Patreon. But Tether is at a price that even small businesses like ours can afford. It's simple to use. Customer support is awesome. Check out the link in our bio on all the socials and the description of the show to learn more about that. And then our Patreon page. Woo! For $1 a month, you can support us. You get the newsletter. You get a shout out on the show, and you can submit topics for us to talk about. We will shout out the members of the Patreon now. Stephanie, Jeffrey, and Freddie, thank you so much. Your support means the world to us. It really does.
Truly.
Yeah. It really is kind of crazy. Okay, cool. So
cool.
Okay. Let's talk about some books.
Would you like to?
I think so.
Bro.
Let me tell you about a book called This Is How You Lose the Time War.
Please do.
So, funny story about this book.
Actually, I'm a winner.
So, funny thing about this book. I did not plan to read this book when I read it. It had been on my TBR for quite a while, but it just was not something that I ever was like, I really want to get to this. I really want to get to this because I didn't know really what it was about. I had seen somebody on Book Talk say that it was their favorite book ever. And I was like, anytime somebody says that, really regardless of who it is, I'll probably add the book to my TBR. Just because, for something to be somebody's favorite book ever, there's got to be something good about it, right? So I was in Portugal. Or no, I was not in Portugal yet. I was on the way to Portugal from London. And we had the plane ride was an hour and a half or something. And I had listened to the first part of this book. The rest of the book I finished on the plane. And when I tell you about the story, the fact that I read it on a plane, to me is so funny because it feels very transient.
Okay.
It feels very I don't know. It was just funny to me that I listened to it on the plane. And it also made me cry on the plane. So there's a real theme for the books that I read. Just make me tear up. It's not hard to do. I say that all the time. But so essentially what the book is about, there is a time war going on. Well, we don't know. I don't really know what that means. Even still. It's not really explained. So there's two opposing sides. There's one side that's very future-oriented, very we need to make progress. One side's very past-oriented, natural nature, all this stuff. In this time where we have two characters, red and blue. One of them is for the future time people, and one of them is for the past time people. So essentially what this book is they are writing letters back to each other in different time periods across multiple different universes, across histories and all this stuff. And what their job basically is for their respective sides is to pull the strings of fate, really. So they change the way that history progresses. There's one bit where it's Atlantis sinks in every timeline. We have to make sure that it does that or something.
Yeah.
And so just stuff to that effect. Very multiversy, very honestly kind of weird. And these two are the best at their jobs.
Sure.
And all of a sudden they start writing these letters back to each other, beginning as taunting and almost challenging the other to be all right, clean up my mess. Try to fix what I've done.
Oh, yeah.
And we follow them through multiple, like I said, multiple different timelines, multiple different universes. And all of a sudden, their letters shift from taunting and challenging to flirty and like this whole thing. And then to this deep yearning for this other person. And I think, and I wrote a Medium article about this, and I called it a masterclass in yearning, because each character wants the other person so deeply, and they've never met each other.
Yeah.
And to me, reading this book is like experiencing a like whirlwind romance from like the outside perspective.
Yeah.
Which is really fun. It's like watching a movie, like watching a romance movie that is also like an action time travel thriller. Like it's not really a thriller. The book isn't, but just a lot of genre bending kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I would say this kind of rides the line of like spec fic and science fiction.
Yeah.
And romance, because there is a lot of just really deep emotional connection between these characters.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to see because they're so different from each other.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of their conversations are about how different they are.
Yeah.
And like, okay, what do you think about this? Or that's interesting, but here's this.
Yeah.
So even though they are completely opposite from each other, they're able to find common ground, and that's enough for them to risk their lives writing these letters back and forth to each other.
Yeah.
Because they're not supposed to have any like contact. And each letter that they write is destroyed upon reading it, generally.
Okay.
And they also like, this is where it loses some people, because they're not like physical letters a lot of times. Like one's in like a bee sting. Like they get stung by a bee, and then they just like have the letter in their. I don't really know how it works.
That's wild.
It is. It's not explained how that works. It doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
Because it's not so much about the letters, and it's more about what they're saying to each other.
Right.
I'll tell you, this book has some of the best prose I've ever read. It is like reading the most beautiful love letter on every single page.
Yeah.
And I listened to it. So I listened to the book, and on the plane, I was just like sat there like, who comes up with this stuff? Like, who has this in their brain?
Yeah.
To convey the feeling of love for another person.
Yeah.
And it was just, if I would consider myself to be a bit of a romantic.
Yeah, maybe.
And so that kind of stuff just really, I don't know, it's really impactful for me.
Yeah.
And so I think that this book, if you're somebody who is like that, you are going to eat this up. Because if you can look past the weirdness of it all, because it is weird. Like there's not a whole lot of structure here. If you can look past that and get to the baseline story of two people falling in love, it's just like any other romance.
Right.
And it's so fascinating. I think that another thing that makes it stand out to me is each of the characters still has their sense of duty about them. Like, I have to keep doing this, but not good enough for this to end. Like, so they're still doing their jobs, but there's almost this sense of like, I'm just doing enough, or I'm doing just little enough for this to not have to end.
Yeah.
And towards the end, there's some conflict, and it's just very well done. It's a short book too. It's only, let me give you an exact number here. Hold on. Skibidi-bow. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you have to listen to that. It's like 198 pages.
Okay.
So it's very short.
About 200 pages would have worked.
Well, yeah.
Oh, well.
Oh, wait. It might be exactly 200 pages. Wow, look at you go. So it's really quick. It was like a 4-hour audiobook or something.
Okay.
Let me read you this quote though.
Please do.
I think that this kind of the verbiage that is used here, I think kind of encapsulates everything that this book is.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Okay.
Let me just hold on. I want to chase you, find you. I want to be eluded and teased and adored. I want to be defeated and victorious. I want you to cut me, sharpen me. I want to drink tea beside you in 10 years or 1,000. Flowers grow far away on a planet they'll call Cephalus, and these flowers bloom once every century when the living star and its black hole binary enter conjunction. I want to fix you a bouquet of them, gathered across 800,000 years, so you can draw our whole engagement in a single breath, all the ages we've shaped together. The whole book is just that.
Yeah.
And it's very like there are moments where the characters have these really intense realizations of their feelings for each other, and it's almost like they word vomit out onto the page.
Okay.
There's also a lot of vulnerability, I think, in this book, from the characters, where they're like bearing parts of themselves that they've not shared before with people, and it's just in the back of your mind you're thinking, but these people I've never met, but they kind of have.
Yeah.
Because they've spent all this time in the same places. And there's one part where it's like this person's assignment was to live as the wife of a person for basically a lifetime. And they're like, I just think about you. Like, I think about you like the whole time. I think about the next letter I can write to you.
Yeah.
So it really is, it's just this beautiful love story that is mixed with time travel and just really cool sci-fi elements. And I think that you would really like this.
Yeah.
It might be a little like abstract and weird, but I think that it makes up for that with the feeling that it kind of stirs.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think you'd like it, and I think that you would like it for the writing.
Yeah.
Almost on its own.
Okay.
There's just so many moments where I paused the audiobook and I was like, oh wow. Like that's very like powerful.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I think you'd like it. I think you should give it a shot. It's like honestly, man, like a top 5 book for me. Just off the dome. Like I think it's definitely up there. I lied earlier. I read another book and I completely forgot about it. Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I completely forgot that I read that book. I should have looked.
Because that was another one you really, really enjoyed.
Oh, and I read some. Oh no, I read some like self-help books, which we don't need to talk about.
Okay.
But yeah, I think I lied.
Did you finish? Okay, so last time you were talking about what happened to you and Body Keeps the Score.
I
Did you finish
finished.
those?
I finished What Happened to You. I did not finish The Body Keeps the Score.
Okay.
I returned that one with like 50% left.
Body Keeps the Score is a
long book, so I will finish it another time.
Yeah.
Wow, I can't. Wow, I forgot that. I
forgot like a lot of what you read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. Anyway, that's my thoughts on This How You Lose the Time War. I loved it, and it's so quick that it's worth, I think, everybody's time.
Yeah. I mean, that's how you got me with Psalm for the Wild Built too. So you just keep hitting me with these quick little novellas. Won't take up too much of your time.
And then you think about it for a while.
Yeah.
It stays with you a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is one of those too.
Yeah.
Where it's like, because it does have the questions that like I like to think about. It's like,
right.
What is our purpose?
Mm-hmm.
Why do we love? Like, what causes us to love somebody?
Yeah.
I think it's very, very thinky book. Like, brain.
Thoughtful.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Thought provoking.
Thinky.
Thinky.
Yeah.
That's pretty thinky.
Yeah.
I consider myself kind of a thinky guy. So.
Yeah, I know you do. So I think you'd like it.
Thinky guys need thinky books.
Yeah. I've been saying that.
Yeah.
I've said that for years.
That could be on merch too.
Yeah. Thinky guys need thinky books.
Yeah. Whenever I say that could be merch, these are just ideas for T-shirts that I will make for myself and never for anyone else.
Yeah. Just, yeah.
And people will ask, like, where did you get that shirt? I designed it and made it, and you can't have it.
We should buy a screen printing, like...
And only make custom stuff for ourselves.
That's so funny. We could have buried this book T-shirts and be like, oh, I want to buy that.
This is how you win the merch war.
Yeah, that's what I say. I've been saying that for years. My favorite bit recently has been that one. It's like, and I've been saying this. Or if I like say something wrong, or like do ask somebody, or like I don't know, make a mistake, I'll be like, and that's on me. And I just say that, like I think it's so funny. And you know what? That one's on me. It's like, obviously, yeah, that's on you. You literally dropped my drink, and that's on me.
Like, you're so gallant for owning the responsibility.
And that's my fault.
You know,
or
that,
even if
that one's on me.
Yeah, or even if it's like not really my fault, it's just funny. Yeah. Anyway,
Specifically then. Yeah.
What about you, Steven?
I would love to tell you about a little ditty. I'm going to give you something to cut out first, though. All right. So the book that I think I'm going to try to convince you to read this time is called Room.
Room.
So this was turned into a movie starring Brie Larson back in the 2010s.
I remember this.
Yes.
I never watched it, but I remember this.
Great. Perfect. Good. All right. So this is
all three of them.
This is a thinky book, but it's also a suspenseful book. It's divided into 5 parts, and the middle section is probably the most suspenseful thing I have read since Misery.
Really?
Yes.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That is quite the statement.
Yeah. And just because of the subject matter, I would say it's got some horror elements.
Is this a book that people should check the trigger warnings for?
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah. So, high level, this book is about a woman and her son who are being held in captivity in a room. This is where they eat their meals, sleep, live out their entire lives. Turns out this room is built in the shed of a terrible man's backyard. The guy kidnapped her from her college campus when she was 19, and now she has his child in this room. And so we pick up at this child's 5th birthday, and the first section of the book is just giving us, like, here's what their typical days look like. It establishes the relationship between the mother and the child. It's very awesome. It gives enough of the relationship with the guy who comes in like once a day, more or less, and just kind of gives you the lay of the land, right? And then the second part kicks off with, we have to escape, and that's going to be on you, kid. Here's the plan. And then the third part is the escape plan.
Yeah.
So pretty early into the book is they're trying to execute their escape. And then the 4th and 5th parts are post-escape. So almost half the book takes place after what would kind of be considered the climax, which is really interesting. It's paced very interestingly. You want to know what the real draw here is, though?
Yes.
The real kicker of this whole thing? The whole thing is written from the 5-year-old's perspective.
Ooh.
First-person perspective from the 5-year-old's point of view. So it's the 5-year-old, like, and it's a smart kid, so it's not but 5-year-old level vocabulary, and it's fascinating because obviously this is dark subject matter.
Yeah.
And you can imagine the impact that these events have had on the mom. Yeah. Not just when they're in the room, but after they get out and she has to deal with what's happened to her and all that kind of stuff. You see her struggle from the kid's perspective and how the kid is trying to piece it together and how the kid is trying to kind of rationalize everything. Time out.
You really need to read The Ocean at the End of the Lane.
Okay.
Keep going.
Okay. And that's also what makes the escape portion of the book so suspenseful. Yeah. Because you are... I don't want to give away too many of the specific details of it. But you are watching a 5-year-old try to figure out how to execute this plan and also troubleshoot things that don't happen exactly according to plan. And you are inside the kid's head as he's trying to make decisions, as he's nervous about things, as he's scared of this guy. Like, it is so suspenseful, and you're really not sure like where it's gonna go.
Yeah.
Either. So suspenseful. Like, yeah, that's the best way I can put it. Is what I already said. Is it's the most suspenseful thing I've read since Misery.
Yeah.
I flew through that section.
Yeah.
Because
you kind of just flew through that book. Like,
yes.
generally, it's a shorter one. Yeah.
It's just under 400 pages, I think.
Yeah.
And it's a quick read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reads quick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Quickly.
Yeah. Well, I've just been
thinky.
I've been trying to figure out how to say that.
Yeah.
Because Mistborn, the second Mistborn book is the same way. It's a really long book, but it reads quickly.
I see.
So I've been trying to I don't know.
Yeah.
Figure out how to make that make sense.
Yeah.
Reads quickly, I think, is the way that I would say. Anyway.
Yeah. So it's just really fascinating, and especially last week when you mentioned in some of the heavier books that you were reading, that both the books were in like child developmental psychology and like childhood trauma and stuff like that. This book is actually written by a child psychologist.
I bet that's
so it's accurate as well.
Yeah.
And it's just so fascinating to see the effect that something like this would happen on a child developmentally, but not necessarily in like this is so depressing, sad kind of way, but like how incredible is the mind of a child that it's so elastic that even in this horrible circumstance, like the kid loved this room.
Yeah.
Because it was their entire universe.
Yeah.
And so it was weird to not be in the room. Like their first...
You only know what you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just really interesting. And the way that the child forms their understanding of the whole world and then has to kind of relearn it is incredible. And just exploring like a mother-child relationship from that really extreme perspective, but still from the kid's angle, is mind-blowingly cool.
Yeah. You've convinced me, I will say already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So really interesting premise. Really great structure. Really well paced. And the perspective thing is the kicker.
Yeah.
It makes the whole story unique just because it's written from that perspective.
Yeah.
And professionally so.
Yeah. That sounds so interesting.
Yeah.
Do you find that that made you I would this I guess is you maybe already answered this, but were you more engaged, you think, because of the perspective?
Yes.
Or, okay. You don't like if it was the other way around, if it was written from the mother's perspective, do you think it would have been as good?
I would have been less engaged with it, probably just because I wouldn't have had as easy of a time relating to it.
Sure. And maybe the uniqueness factor too of how many books you read written from the perspective of a 5-year-old.
Yeah, absolutely. I've never been a woman, but I have been a 5-year-old.
True.
So it's like it even just kind of unlocked memories for me. So I was also stolen as a child and left in a room. No, that didn't happen. But it reminded me of how my brain worked as a little kid.
You really need to read The Ocean at the End of the Lane, dude.
Okay.
Because that's the same thing is gonna happen for you.
Okay.
Maybe more so. I haven't read The Room, but this is
but it had that effect for me as well. And I think if it would have been from any other perspective, I wouldn't have had that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Cool.
Yeah. So that's what I'd like you to read.
Yeah, I think I will. It sounds very good actually. Yeah. I like stuff like that, especially when it's written from a different perspective.
Yeah,
like one that I wouldn't necessarily.
And because it's from the kid's perspective, even some of the really horrible things that are happening are not gratuitous.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you've convinced me.
Woo.
Yeah.
All right.
What are you reading next?
What am I reading next, or what am I reading currently?
What are you reading now?
What am I reading right now? I am reading Percy Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Me and my wife have kicked up our book to screen film
Yeah.
or book club again
Mm-hmm.
on Fable. So that's the book that we're reading, and then we're gonna watch the new Disney
New show,
adaptation of Percy Jackson.
Not the movie that came out.
Correct.
Yeah.
With Logan Lerman.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're reading that one together, and then I am reading this one, The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. Jemison, my bad. It's okay so far.
Yeah.
It's not grabbing me like I wanted it to.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I'm going to stick it out, I think. And then, what's the other one I'm reading? Oh, boy. Oh. I have begun A Court of Thorn and Roses.
Ah.
Yes.
Yes.
ACOTAR.
Yep.
I've jumped into the world.
Interesting.
Yep. I'll let you know.
Yeah. Let me know.
Might do an episode. Well, 'cause you did a Sarah J. Maas.
Yes. Yeah.
Throne of Glass.
And then it lost me.
Did it?
Yeah. Book 4 it lost me. I also heard that Sarah J. Maas is not like a great person. But
Oh, really?
yeah. I don't know. I don't know too much about that. But I am reading Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will be reading Hero of Ages. I think that's what it's called, by Brandon Sanderson. I'm also listening to Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton.
Okay.
I'm like 25% into it. I don't know if I'm going to finish it before my hold runs out.
Yeah.
It's really good, and it's very interesting because it's a lot of stories about love and about life told from a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I've also never been a woman. But the experience of growing up as a woman is just really fascinating and very, I think, important to familiarize yourself with in any way that you can.
Mm-hmm.
Just since it's not my experience.
Yeah.
So I'm enjoying it. I just don't know if I'm going to have time to finish it before. Sure. I had requested it when I was really on like a nonfiction kick, and now I'm not anymore.
Yeah.
I had like a solid 2-week self-help nonfiction.
That's what mood reading does to you.
Sure does, brother bear. It is
you know how hard it is to co-host a podcast where the crux of it is convincing another person to read something and the other person is a mood reader.
I don't know how hard that is.
It's really
really
freaking hard.
I imagine that it's very difficult because in like 3 years I'll be like, I probably picked up The Room, or
yeah, exactly.
And I was just in the mood to read it. Dude, do you know how hard it is to be a mood reader?
I like hard, but also the easiest.
No, because have you ever been in the middle of a book and be like, I kind of hate this now. It's great, but I kind of hate it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
and then I finish it.
Couldn't be me, because I just won't. I won't read anything for 2 weeks if I keep doing that. You know, it's like I don't know.
I think I would have been a mood reader like as a kid, if my mom would have let me be a mood reader as a kid. But if I tried to hit her with like, I'm just not in the mood to finish this, she'd be like, well, I'm in the mood for you to finish it, so you're gonna finish it.
Dude, you know what's so funny? I didn't read a single book as a child.
I believe that.
I don't think I finished a single book. I could not focus.
Yeah.
I could not do it. And now I'm going to go to school to be a librarian.
Yeah. Funny, the passage of time.
Yeah. Library school. More about that later. But yeah, dude, that's what I'm reading right now. Unless I change my mind. I got 100 pages left.
It's not frustrating at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of it is frustrating for me as well. I won't lie. It's not. It's like also like finishing a book and looking at your bookshelf and be like, I don't want to read any of this.
I hate all of them.
Yeah, it's like I cannot read a single one of these books.
Yeah, it's been interesting. A lot of my slowdown has been, I didn't plan out March at all. So
taking a walk on the wild side.
I've essentially been mood reading.
Yeah. Sucks, doesn't it?
Yeah, I got my first DNF
Yeah.
out of it. So,
Yeah. It's so funny that I'm such a planner in like every other aspect of my life.
Except reading.
Except for reading, which is now maybe the biggest part of my life.
Yeah.
So
I think in the next month or so, though, like I'll end up finishing out a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Because I will undoubtedly finish out my Theodore Roosevelt biography.
Oh, absolutely, of course. You're gonna have a hard time convincing me to read that, Brady. I tell you.
That's why I haven't brought him up. Although my favorite quote that I've read in the last few weeks came from the second one, and it was Theodore Roosevelt right after he became president. He was talking about Texas, and this was specifically, I don't know, he was like dealing with like lynchings and stuff like that at the turn of the century, and he said something about how yes, people from Texas, they are absolutely murderous, but they are the most orthodox of the southern states. Like talking about like their church whatever stuff. So he was like,
fascinating.
They are murderous, but they are the most orthodox.
That is a
just
fascinating statement.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Love it. He just took pot shots at Texas, and I was there for it. But yeah, so I'll finish that out. I'll finish out the Thrawn trilogy in the next couple weeks, which I'm very excited to do. I'm just waiting for a library hold on book 3, and then we'll be done with that. So my goal of finishing one series for the year is already done, but I will end up finishing at least 3 series already.
Your goal was to finish one series this year?
Yeah. And I already finished the Old Republic series.
Your goal was 100 books. How are you going to not finish a series?
I don't know.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
You should have said that higher.
I hadn't done a series in a long time.
Yeah. I forget that we're not the same.
Yeah.
We are very different on that that front.
Mm-hmm.
I do know that now. I think that's all the time we have.
I think they're giving us the light.
Oh, they're playing the music.
Yep. Oh, there it is.
I'm playing the music.
Hey. Oh boy. Should we say the thing?
I think you have some stuff you need to say before that.
You're
Continuity,
right.
Steven.
You're right.
What are we if we're not consistent?
And consistently, I like to thank you, dear viewer or listener, for your time that you've given to us, especially if you've made it to this point in the show.
I can't believe it.
Because arguably, you're probably about 55 minutes in, if I had to guess.
If we had to guess.
Yeah. And that's just a lot of time to give to two folks that are just talking about books and their reading journeys and all that kind of stuff. So thank you for giving your time to us. It's the most valuable thing you have, and it blesses us.
It does.
If you want to help out the show, you can follow us individually with either of our Bookstagrams. You can follow the show itself on Instagram. You could, if you were like really feeling crazy, you could support us on Patreon for $1 a month. That gets you a newsletter from us that has all kinds of goodies in it. It also gets you a shout out on the show. You can also tell us what you want us to talk about if you would like. Yeah, so all kinds of good stuff that comes with that. What else?
Steven didn't say it, but we're also on TikTok.
We're also on TikTok.
Steven's not.
I'm not.
But I am, and the show is, so.
Yeah. So if you're a TikToker, head on over there. Yeah. I'm the old one.
That was old.
I'm the old one. Remember how I said I got overwhelmed by Instagram within 30 seconds
I do have to
of being
provide
there?
the youthful glow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all you, man. That's all you. But yeah, if you could like and subscribe to our stuff, that helps greatly. If you could write reviews on Apple, Spotify, wherever you're listening to this, that actually boosts us up quite a bit. The last couple of folks who have done it, thank you, because that helped out big time.
Yep.
You can search bro and we come up.
Yeah.
So that's pretty exciting. Big stuff.
Yeah. Moving up in the world.
Yeah. Anything else?
I think that's it.
That's it. Now this is
podcasting.
Bye-bye.